You're watching this video because I sacrificed my soul to make it. If you don't subscribe, I might just summon the dark forces to haunt your Wi-Fi. Click that button before things get really spooky. The frigid winds of Titan IV howled, biting through Jackson's insulated suit like 1,000 icy needles. He had barely stepped off the shuttle when the planet's harsh embrace greeted him. The landscape was a barren wasteland of jagged rocks and swirling frost, illuminated by the distant glow of a dying star. The Galactic Council's holographic representatives observed from a control room, their faces a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Let's see how well your skills hold up here," Counselor Eris said, his voice dripping with condescension. His fingers hovered over the controls, adjusting the view to track Jackson's every move. The Council believed Jackson's survival skills were relics of a bygone era, unfit for the advanced challenges of the galaxy. Jackson gritted his teeth, focusing on the task at hand. He adjusted the settings on his suit's HUD, its display flickering as it tried to compensate for the extreme conditions. "Time to prove them wrong," he muttered to himself, his breath forming a misty cloud that quickly dissipated in the cold. The mission was clear: retrieve a critical piece of technology from a downed probe. The probe had crashed deep within the planet's southern hemisphere, in a region known for its treacherous terrain. Jackson's only guide was a rough digital map that displayed a red dot marking the probe's location, surrounded by a sea of unstable ground and hidden crevices. As he trudged forward, the biting cold seeped through his gloves, making his fingers numb. Every step was a struggle against the planet's oppressive gravity and shifting ground. The once clear path quickly deteriorated into a maze of ice and rock, each turn presenting a new obstacle. His suit's sensors beeped urgently, warning him of unstable ground ahead. Jackson stopped, squinting through the storm. "Great, just what I needed," he grumbled. Sophie's voice crackled through the comms, her tone a mix of concern and encouragement. "You're making good progress, Jackson. Just stay alert. The storm's getting worse." "Understood," Jackson replied, tightening his grip on the survival gear. He pushed forward, his breath heavy in the freezing air. The wind screamed around him, drowning out all other sounds, and the cold seemed to invade his very bones. He had to keep moving. Failure was not an option. Hours passed, and the storm intensified. Visibility dropped to near zero, and the temperature plummeted. Jackson's suit struggled to keep up, its warnings becoming more frequent and urgent. Exhaustion gnawed at him, but he forced himself to continue. Each step was a battle against the elements, and the creeping doubt that threatened to overwhelm him. Just when it seemed his efforts would be in vain, he spotted a faint glow through the blizzard, a hint of refuge amidst the chaos. "That's it," Jackson thought, mustering the last of his strength. The light grew stronger as he approached, revealing the entrance to a cave partially hidden by ice and rock. With a final push, Jackson stumbled into the cave, his suit's alarms silenced by the sudden shelter. The cave's interior was surprisingly warm and relatively calm, a stark contrast to the brutal conditions outside. He collapsed against the cave wall, gasping for breath and assessing his situation. "This is just the beginning," he muttered to himself. The cave seemed to extend further into the planet's depths, promising both danger and hope. As he caught his breath, Jackson knew the hardest part was yet to come. He would have to navigate the cave's twists and turns to find the crashed probe and retrieve the vital technology. The journey ahead was fraught with peril, but he was determined to prove the Council wrong. Outside, the storm raged on, and the Council's representatives watched with bated breath. The challenge had only just begun, and Jackson's true test was far from over. The icy winds howled as Jackson pressed deeper into the cave's labyrinthine passages. His breath came in ragged puffs, each one mingling with the cave's damp, musty air. The dim light from his suit's headlamp cast long, eerie shadows on the uneven walls, revealing ancient markings that hinted at the cave's mysterious past. Sophie's voice crackled through the comms, steady and reassuring. "How's it going, Jackson? Any sign of the probe yet?" "Not yet," Jackson replied, his voice tight with effort. "This place is a maze. I'm starting to think it was built to confuse anyone who came through." As Jackson continued, the cave's passages narrowed, forcing him to crouch. His suit's environmental controls struggled to keep up with the fluctuating temperatures. The temperature inside the cave was warmer than outside, but the humidity was making his suit's sensors malfunction intermittently. He brushed his gloved hand against the cold rock, feeling the vibrations through his fingertips. "Jackson, the storm outside is getting worse," Sophie's voice warned. "We've lost contact with some of our probes in the area. Be careful." "I hear you," Jackson said, trying to ignore the gnawing sense of urgency. He needed to find the probe and get out before the storm could compromise his chances. As he rounded a bend, he spotted a faint, pulsing light through a narrow crevice. His heart raced with cautious optimism. The light grew brighter as Jackson approached, revealing a chamber that seemed to glow with an otherworldly hue. The chamber was filled with bioluminescent fungi, casting a soft, eerie glow on the walls and floor. At the chamber's center lay the remains of the probe, half buried under debris. Jackson's initial relief quickly turned to dread. The probe was heavily damaged, its outer shell cracked and scorched. The vital technology he needed was buried beneath a pile of rubble. He activated his suit's tools, deploying a small robotic arm to clear the debris. "This is going to take some time," Jackson muttered, sweat trickling down his brow despite the cool cave air. The robotic arm worked tirelessly, but every movement seemed to stir up more dust and debris. Sophie's voice came through again, tinged with concern. "Jackson, we've got a serious problem. The storm's causing more interference. We might lose contact soon. You need to hurry." Jackson's fingers fumbled with the controls as he tried to stabilize the robotic arm's progress. His frustration mounted, each delay seeming to mock his efforts. The thought of returning empty-handed gnawed at him, pushing him to work faster. With a final burst of effort, the debris was cleared away, revealing the damaged core of the probe. Jackson's eyes widened in relief and determination. The core was intact but severely damaged. He carefully detached it from the wreckage and began inspecting it, his suit's diagnostics running a quick analysis. "This core is crucial," he said, his voice filled with both relief and frustration. "If it's not repaired, it's useless. I need to get it back to the shuttle." As he began to pack up the core, a sudden tremor shook the cave. Rocks tumbled from the ceiling, and a low rumble echoed through the chamber. Jackson's eyes widened in alarm. "Jackson, what's happening?" Sophie's voice was barely audible through the crackling static. "Not sure," Jackson shouted back, struggling to maintain his balance. "But I need to get out of here now." He grabbed the core and sprinted towards the cave's entrance. The tremors intensified, and the chamber began to collapse around him. As Jackson emerged into the storm's fury, he glanced back at the cave's entrance, now partially buried under a new layer of debris. The storm outside had reached its peak, and the winds howled like a banshee. Jackson fought against the storm, his suit's alarms blaring warnings about the increasingly hazardous conditions. Every step was a battle as he fought his way back to the shuttle. With the probe's core secure and the storm raging around him, Jackson knew he had only narrowly escaped disaster. The storm's fury and the cave's collapse were just the beginning of the challenges he would face in proving his worth. The shuttle's interior was a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Jackson collapsed into the pilot's seat, his breath coming in heavy, exhausted bursts. The storm outside raged with a relentless fury, shaking the shuttle's frame and causing the hull to creak ominously. Despite the cacophony, the inside of the shuttle was a haven of warmth and relative silence. "Status report, Jackson." Sophie's voice came through the comms, filled with a mix of concern and relief. "I made it back with the core," Jackson replied, struggling to steady his breath. "But the cave's collapsed, and I barely got out before the storm hit its peak. It's a mess out there." "Understood," Sophie said, her voice softening. "We're pulling up the data now. Just hold tight." Jackson removed his helmet and rubbed his face, exhausted but relieved. He stared at the probe's core lying on the table, its damaged surface glowing faintly under the shuttle's lights. The core was crucial for the mission, but its current state was far from ideal. Sophie's face appeared on the shuttle's monitor, her expression serious. We've got a major problem. The storm has damaged our sensors, and we've lost some data from the cave. We need to fix the core before we can proceed. Jackson nodded, his fatigue momentarily forgotten. I'll start on it. What's the plan? We need to assess the core's damage and repair it as much as possible, Sophie explained. There's a backup relay module in the shuttle's storage that might help stabilize the core's output. It's not ideal, but it's our best shot. Jackson moved quickly, retrieving the relay module from the storage compartment. The module was a complex piece of technology, designed to enhance the core's functionality under extreme conditions. He set to work, carefully attaching the module to the core and running a series of diagnostic tests. As he worked, the storm outside intensified. The shuttle shuddered under the impact of the gale force winds. Jackson's hands moved deftly, his focus unbroken despite the turbulence. Every so often, he glanced at the shuttle's external monitors, watching the storm's relentless assault. Sophie's voice cut through the noise. Jackson, the Council is demanding a status update. They're getting impatient. We need to show them that this mission is not only feasible but also successful. I know, Jackson replied, his voice determined. Just a few more adjustments. With a final twist of the module, the core emitted a stable, rhythmic pulse. Jackson wiped his brow, exhaustion giving way to a sense of accomplishment. The core was now functioning at a level that should allow them to proceed with their objectives. Sophie's image on the monitor brightened. Good work, Jackson. The core's stabilizing, and we're getting clearer readings. We're transmitting the data to the Council now. Jackson slumped into a seat, feeling the weight of his efforts. What now? No, Sophie said with a smile. We wait for their reaction. But I think it's safe to say we've made a strong impression. You've proven that your skills are invaluable, despite their doubts. The shuttle's alarms blared suddenly, startling Jackson. He turned to see a new alert on the control panel. The storm was creating severe atmospheric anomalies, and the shuttle's systems were detecting unusual energy readings. Sophie's face paled as she reviewed the data. Jackson, something's wrong. We're detecting a massive energy spike coming from the cave site. It could be related to the core. We need to investigate immediately. Jackson's heart raced. The successful stabilization of the core was overshadowed by this new, ominous development. All right, let's get to it, he said, gripping the controls. As he prepared the shuttle for departure, Jackson felt a surge of determination. The journey was far from over, and the stakes were higher than ever. The energy spike might hold the key to solving their problems or plunge them into new dangers. Either way, Jackson was ready to face whatever came next. The shuttle's thrusters roared as it cut through the storm's fury, the dark clouds swirling violently outside the viewport. Jackson's knuckles were white on the control stick, his eyes fixed on the unstable energy readings flickering across the display. The energy spike detected at the cave site had escalated into a full-blown anomaly, threatening to disrupt their mission and possibly their safety. Jackson, you need to be cautious. Sophie's voice came through the comms, her tone a mix of urgency and concern. We don't know what's causing the energy surge. It could be a serious threat. I'm on it, Jackson replied, trying to keep his voice steady despite the tension. I'll bring us in as close as I can without getting us blasted to oblivion. The shuttle shuddered violently, a reminder of the storm's unrelenting force. The onboard sensors struggled to maintain a stable connection, causing the screens to flicker and distort. Jackson gritted his teeth, his focus unwavering as he maneuvered the shuttle toward the cave's last known location. The energy surge created a swirling vortex of electromagnetic interference, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint the exact source. Jackson fought to keep the shuttle on course, the controls vibrating under his grip. Every jolt and bump felt like a test of his resolve. Finally, the shuttle emerged from the storm's edge, and the cave entrance came into view. It was partially obscured by debris from the earlier collapse, and the surrounding area seemed unnaturally distorted by the energy anomaly. Jackson's heart pounded as he prepared to land, knowing that whatever awaited them could either be a breakthrough or a disaster. The shuttle touched down with a heavy thud, the landing gear sinking into the unstable ground. Jackson and Sophie suited up and exited the shuttle, their boots crunching on the gravelly surface. The storm raged around them, but the swirling energy at the cave entrance was even more unsettling. "We need to be quick," Jackson said, his voice barely audible over the storm. "Whatever's causing this anomaly, we have to stabilize it before it causes more damage." Sophie nodded, her face set in a determined expression. "Agreed. I'll set up the diagnostic equipment and try to analyze the energy readings. You need to get inside the cave and find the source." The cave's entrance was blocked by a fresh layer of debris, remnants of the collapse adding to the earlier rubble. Jackson worked with determined efficiency, using his tools to clear a path. As he moved the last of the obstacles, a blinding flash of light erupted from inside the cave, sending a shockwave through the entrance. Jackson staggered, shielding his eyes from the glare. The energy surge had intensified, creating a pulsating glow that illuminated the cave's interior in an eerie, otherworldly light. He entered cautiously, his suit's sensors struggling to compensate for the chaotic energy field. Inside the cave, the energy seemed to concentrate around a large, crystalline formation embedded in the wall. It pulsed rhythmically, emitting waves of energy that seemed to resonate with the core. Jackson approached the crystal, feeling its energy field push against him. "This is it," Jackson said into the comms, his voice tense. "The source of the anomaly. I need to stabilize it, but I'm not sure how." "Understood," Sophie replied. "We've detected a secondary energy output that might be linked to the core's malfunction. Try to connect the relay module to the crystal. It might help control the energy flow." Jackson activated the relay module, carefully connecting it to the crystal. The pulsations grew more erratic as he worked, the cave's walls trembling with each surge. He adjusted the module settings, trying to match the crystal's energy pattern. As the module engaged, the energy field began to stabilize, though the crystal's pulses remained intense. Jackson wiped sweat from his brow, his hands shaking with the effort. The storm outside raged on, but the energy surge in the cave was slowly being brought under control. "We're seeing improvements," Sophie's voice came through, sounding relieved. "The readings are stabilizing. Just hold on a bit longer." Jackson's focus was absolute as he worked to fine-tune the adjustments. The energy field began to ebb, its chaotic pulses settling into a more predictable rhythm. The cave's atmosphere lightened, the oppressive energy lifting. With a final adjustment, the crystal's glow dimmed to a steady, manageable level. Jackson slumped against the cave wall, his exhaustion momentarily overcoming him. The energy anomaly had been contained, but the storm's aftermath and the potential consequences remained. "We did it," Sophie said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You've stabilized the anomaly. We need to get back to the shuttle and prepare for the next phase. The Council will want a full report." Jackson nodded, his mind already racing with the implications of their success. As he and Sophie made their way back to the shuttle, the storm's fury began to wane, and the first signs of calm appeared on the horizon. They had faced the unknown and emerged victorious, but the challenges ahead promised to test their resolve even further.